Everyone, thanks for joining for another episode of the Scars and Wisdom series. And this is a conversation space where we are honoring the truth of what we've lived through and the wisdom that now lives in us because of it. So today I'm so excited to be talking to Donna Marston. And Donna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know what you're doing in the world?
Thank you. My name's Donna Marston. I'm also known as the Family Recovery Facilitator. And what I do is I work with parents who have a teen or adult child in active addiction or early recovery. And this affected my family was impacted by a child who we found out I think he was 17 when we found out, somewhere around there. Some of it's a blur, and that he was using from the age 15 is when he started experimenting. And what happened is my heart was broken. And for me, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I went to bed for 6 months when nobody was looking. And just kind of my head became my hell. I created stories that I didn't know to be true. I beat myself up. Maybe it's my fault. I'm the mother. Everything's usually our fault. And so I wasn't emotionally available for anybody who was healthy in my life. And this went on and on and on for 10 years. And after 8 years, I had hit my enough. Because I saw an emotional scale, I saw how emotionally ill I was. And it catapulted me. It was like a punch in the gut. Like, how did you get so sick? And so I went on a journey of trying to figure out what to do. And it took me on a path of finding my spirituality. It was a long, painful journey, but I did some deep healing. And ended up working on me, which a lot of people don't understand. And what I realized is that we carry these suitcases behind us, and we just add all the stuff to them. And at some point, something breaks us open, and it's time to unpack it. And so this journey brought me to a place where I started doing family support. I ran family support in the state of New Hampshire for over 12 years, family sharing without shame. And this all organically brought me to this doing the work that I do. Sharing without shame is the name of my business. And I just help parents get out of the fetal position, teach them coping skills, how to maneuver this, how to manage this, how to navigate when you love somebody in active addiction.
Such important work that you're doing.
Okay.
And when you talked about the breaking open, that's the exact thing that I experienced as well. And it is surprising, right? Like that when you go through something like a loss of that magnitude, for me, I thought, well, I'll just move through these stages of this and then I'm going to get to this other side of it and then it's all going to be okay.
Hmm.
And that wasn't the experience that it didn't, my experience didn't match that. So one, I thought I was doing it all wrong. And then when I started to really research and kind of dive into grief and loss, I realized, oh, that's a model and it's kind of an outdated model. But I didn't expect what you talked about, which was the rediscovery of myself. Like that was the surprise in this whole thing. And what I think is really the hidden gift in the most painful things that we go through, if we allow ourselves, and everything is a choice, right? And there's a lot of different paths that we can go down. But I do believe that loss is a portal and it opens this door to transformation that not many other experiences do. And if you allow yourself to walk through it, it can be the greatest awakening and transformation of your life. And I think that we both are sitting here fully feeling that's what happened to us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it happened for my son. And this story always kind of makes me get emotional. So if I do, but when he, as you said, cracked open, he was in and out of treatment, and he would have Mother's Day in 2008 would have been a very different day for me had he succeeded in his attempt to take his life. But when he woke up on that day, he thought, well, maybe I need to go to treatment. And he did. And he was there. pretty much to get me off his back. But 2 weeks into it, he had taken this book of mine and called, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
I have it
Yeah.
right here. Yep.
And so he took that to treatment and he started to read it. And one night he decided to look at himself, the person that was, or the maybe the old version of himself, a person in active addiction, and the new person who was 28 days or 14 days sober. And I don't know what was said. I didn't ask because it's not my business, but he said to me that, he said, Mom, that night I felt the negative energy leave my body and I knew my people.
Wow.
Yeah.
I felt
And
that. Yeah.
he is. And, he's over 17 years in recovery and living a wonderful life with a beautiful family and business owner, and he has all of us in his life. Yeah.
What a
So grief
beautiful
and
story.
our grief, all of that together creates, as your podcast says, is our wisdom. But it's all, I don't know if necessary is the right word for us to get to where we are today, or for him to get to where he is today. And it
Yeah.
all it ebbs and flows. And there's sometimes we have to go through the pain before we can get to the other side with that peace and that clarity.
And I wish it didn't have to be that way. Like, I wish we didn't have to be brought to the depths of the hardest times in our lives to see something has to change. I don't know if that's just part of being human. That just seems like that's sometimes the way it has to be. I know for me, I would never have gone down the path and the journey I did if my sister was still here,
Mhm.
because I would have just continued to think this is just life, right? Like, this is just
Yeah,
as good as it gets, or like this is just, how my life is going to be. And I would have never been exposed to the possibilities that I now live. And, the spiritual journey I wasn't expecting. And I was never really, I grew up with religion. I went to church, like that's what we did. I
yeah,
never felt the connection that I saw other people having.
yeah,
But when I went on the spiritual journey, it was a connection back to myself. And I'm like, that's what I was missing. Like,
yeah,
that's it for me.
yeah. That hole in your soul, and you don't know what is it, what is it. And I'm the same for me. I just couldn't figure it all out. Why did I have this something missing? And
Yes.
yet, going through all this pain, I found my purpose. Right? I took what once was my mess, and now it's my message. And I share with parents what I did wrong and how to have better coping skills, how to do this better than I did, so that they don't have to go through the pain of the emotional and financial bankruptcies.
Yeah. Because it's always going to be hard, right? I think everybody who's gotten to the other side of it and now is using their voice to help other people. And, I always think of it as, the most painful things that we've gone through can be somebody else's roadmap to survival. And I say to people, you don't have to end up on this path, right? Like, if you just find the healing, that's enough.
Yeah.
Because some people, we start the judging and the comparison and all of that. And it's like,
Mm,
everybody has a unique purpose in this world. Yours might not be to, go out and activate, to be an activist and to talk about this. Maybe it's just, what you're doing for yourself and that's enough. So I always, tell people there's so many different ways that, this can manifest, and whatever way it does is perfect for you. But I'm grateful that there's so many people that are using the pain and turning it into something that's going to help other people. Cause like you said, the journey that we went on were very long, twisted turns, right?
mhm.
I spent a lot of money to learn what I did, and it took a long time, and I made a lot of, not mistakes, but I didn't know what I was doing
Yeah.
because it wasn't I was being pulled along is what it feels like. I mean, it didn't feel like it was coming from me, like I was just kind of on the ride.
Yeah.
And it took a really long time. So what I tell people is there is a path that you can take. It doesn't have to be as long as or expensive and all of those things. Did the heavy lifting, right? We've done that heavy lifting and now we can help other people do it in a way that's, not as, like you said, financially and emotionally draining.
And mine really was I'd gotten to a point where I was done with the stigma, I was done being silenced, and I was looking for help for my child, and I was gonna find it. And so that's what I did. I started knocking on doors, not who I normally be, like, how do I get help? Because back then you didn't talk about it like you can today.
Uh-huh.
And and it was just a slow evolution where I was I met this person. I was introduced to this person to our United Way in town because I showed up at this woman's desk and I'm sobbing, going, "I need help. I don't know what to do." And she introduced me to this gentleman, and he sent me on this recovery mission for the state of New Hampshire. And I went. I was at Knoll Farm in Vermont, and it was all these people in recovery, and some were professionals, and I'm just somebody's mom. And but we all made a commitment of what we were gonna bring back to our great state, and I said, "I'm gonna stack family support groups." Clueless how to do it, absolutely clueless. But one of the things I learned from people in recovery and not that so I believe in a universal energy. I choose to call that energy God. It's he, she, whatever. I grew up
Mhm.
in church. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, and I was led, and so what I learned was let your higher power go first. Stop trying to control it. And
Yeah.
so I did. I surrendered that and just like, oops, sorry. And I, and so I came back. I let it happen organically. I ended up with two groups per week, and treatment facilities would ask me to run them because they heard about me. And it just there's a plan. And we can
Uh-huh.
either hear it and participate in it, or we fight it or just ignore it. I I was in the fetal position, unfolded myself, and I was ready. I was ready to receive it
Yeah, that's oops, I think we're frozen here. Can you hear me?
and move forward with it.
Yeah. So much wisdom in what you just shared, but I do believe and I also fully have come to understand of the higher plan and that control piece is so important because I also fought it for a long time. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm not going to be a grief and loss coach. Like, who wants to talk about that all the time? Like, who wants to focus on that all the time? But I realized at the heart of everybody that I was helping, at the heart of it, there was a loss. And so I just kept seeing loss, kind of this reoccurring thing. And so then when I finally, like you said, kind of surrendered to it, I call it the universe. The universe is like, okay, finally, like, here we go. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And we've been trying to give this to you for a long
Right.
time and you keep resisting it. And then once I finally leaned in and realized, okay, you're smarter than me. Let's do this. Things just started happening and it felt easy. I mean, it felt like it was flow, right? Like it wasn't like, I mean, not that this entrepreneurial journey is easy because it's not.
N
It's like you'll learn so much about yourself that you didn't even know once you
right?
decide to do this, right?
Yeah.
So there was all the shedding of those beliefs and, that identity that I had to step into. But I do fully subscribe to that. If we allow ourselves to just put down the control, there is something that will open up for us and it's bigger than we could have ever imagined.
Mhm.
It's it feels scary because again, like we couldn't have dreamt this up for ourselves, but something bigger than us knows that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And if we just trust, it will lead you on the path of alignment. And I think that's what we're all searching for, right? Is just this
Mhm.
internal feeling of I know who I am, and I know what I'm supposed to do here. and I'm now doing it. Like when all those things align, there's a bliss and a joy that you feel that you didn't even know existed. That's how I felt.
Yeah, yeah, cracked wide open and out and
Cracked it
open.
open. Yes. So, talk to me about you were in the fetal position. I think so many people can just visually, right? Like as soon as you said that,
Mhm.
I visually like went to like, yes, when I was sleeping all day and up all night and all of that. What did you like when you started to kind of come out of that? Like, do you remember like what was it that was there one thing that kind of like woke you up to it, or like how did you start to kind of make that turn?
Well,
Wow.
I had a client give me, tell me to read this book, Ask It Is Given. I was like, last thing I want is another self-help book. I'm like, I'm over it. And so she said, just go to page, I think it was 134. And I did, and it was an emotional scale. It was 1 through 22. And I saw myself, I was number 22. I was full of despair. I was grieving, and I didn't understand that you can still grieve the loss of a loved one even when they're still alive. I had to
Mhm.
learn how to manage that. And so I started to work on it. So I looked at the different words and I remember like number 17, I think it was anger. And the next day I took a pillow and I beat my bed. I let that rage out. Like, how can you do this to my child? Do it to me, not him. And so every day, so I printed it off, put it on my desk, and I would look at it because I was so emotionally numb. I couldn't tell you a feeling that I had. I had to identify using this emotional scale. And so today I still live by it. I managed to get myself to number 7 because if I'm at 8, I'm bored. And this applies to our loved ones too. When we get bored, all bets are off that we're not going to start vibrating back down to bad behaviors, thoughts, whatever, depression, you name it.
Mhm.
So if we keep ourselves from 1, joyful, and I forget what 7 is, but don't let yourself to get bored because idle hands and idle mind isn't always good. And so that's what catapulted me because I wasn't one. I mean, we all have a little dysfunction, I guess, in ourselves and our families, or but I didn't grow up around a lot of dysfunction, and I realized that my life has become dysfunctional. And I am not emotionally available to my other child or to my husband. I've lost myself in the outcome of my son's addiction.
Mhm.
And it was baby steps. Some days it was a breath at a time in order to start moving forward. And as you know, each time it gets a little bit better, your heart gets a little lighter, right? The crack of the light starts shining a little bit brighter. And so it took time and self-care and practice. One of the things I noticed as I was starting to get well, I was always asking for what I didn't want. I don't want my son to use drugs. I don't want my son to be around drug dealers. I don't. And what I realize is the universe keeps giving you more of what you don't what you're asking for. The universe doesn't understand the word don't.
Mhm.
To change the way I prayed. And I would say I want my son to live a healthy, happy life. And so I learned how to change things. I ended up using journaling, Reiki. I became a Shambhali Reiki master. I learned how to meditate. I learned how to journal doing art and I learned how to heal my inner child. And so when I could heal me, then I can show up for you.
Yeah. So, Abraham Hicks, right? Is that the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love her, and I also love the emotions wheel,
Oh, mhm.
which I use all the time. and this is really kind of, getting to what you're talking about when we only stay here, right? And this top level emotions, it's very difficult to take the right next step because if we're just saying well, I'm just angry. Okay, so we're angry. But when you can go down from anger and really like identify what that next thing is. So, okay, I'm angry, but it's what am I really? I'm hurt. Okay, so I'm hurt. And then from there, what am I really? Am I embarrassed? Am I devastated? Like that's a very different word than
Mm,
anger, right? And so that's going to, we're going to take different action if I realize what I'm really feeling is embarrassed
yeah.
than if I'm angry. So this is such an important part of that process is just identifying and naming the feeling you're actually having because that gives you something to go from.
I love that that goes deeper because it's my head's just going that, yeah, I was riddled with shame and I was embarrassed
Uh-huh.
because I didn't raise my children like that. But that it's not, but that was me profiling too. I learned a lot about myself and that. Um, but I like that. That's good that it goes deeper.
Yep.
It's through the layers.
Yeah, we have to get down to that nuanced
Yeah,
feeling
I wrote
because it's the nuance. That's the richness that's going to give us the understanding for us to then say, "Oh, okay, well, I can now do something about that because now I understand what it actually is that
yeah,
I'm feeling versus anger." It's like, "Okay, well, yeah, I'm angry. Okay.
yeah. Well, it's peeling away the layers, right?
Yeah, yeah."
Until you get to the heart of it and the pain of it.
And I
But
think that, for
yeah.
so many of us that didn't, I always say with my sister, I never really understood everything that she had been through because our childhood was fine. And I always, I always put it in quotation marks because it was fine because by all, outside appearances, we were cared for, we were safe, we had a warm house to sleep in, like all of those things, right? Like they were all covered. My parents had a terrible divorce, that wasn't great, but many people lived through that, so we weren't unique in that, and yet she could never get all she could say is, "I can't get past the past," like, that's as much as she could kind of tap into to know, like, what it really was that was stopping her from finding this happiness, and I never understood it at the time. I also wasn't a very compassionate person at the time, so I'm like, "Just be happy, like, just get over it," like, people would love to have your life. After she passed away and I did all this work and started to really understand, our belief systems and how our belief systems are formed and, how that then becomes the patterns, that you live by, your subconscious, is running the show. And I understood all this, that it doesn't even have to be these big things. Like anything could be happening and it can imprint on us. And that's all it takes. And that's real to you, right? And especially as a child who doesn't understand what's happening, right? My dad moved to Florida when I was in 3rd grade, my sister would have been in 5th grade, and that made an imprint, and that affected relationships, right? Like, there was an abandonment wound there
Sure.
for both of us, and for me, it manifested in the relationships that I chose, right? I was always pick me, like, I wanted everyone to pick me because I felt like he didn't,
Mm,
and so I had to learn, like, my learning was, I'm lovable, like, that was his decision, that didn't have anything to do with me. I don't have to, attract men that are going to abandon me or that I will self-sabotage, right, on my own. I'm worthy of a healthy relationship. And when you said boring, like, that struck a chord with me because what would happen with me is if I was in a relationship and it was healthy, it felt boring. And so I would go look for that chaos and that drama
sure.
and
Stir it
right?
up.
Because that's what you know.
Right.
That's what you know.
Mhm.
And so much in that, yeah, I'm like, I wanted to unpack because until we, like you said, we stop, like, time out, and we go internal to untie these knots that we've gotten ourselves into and to heal ourselves. It's so true, put your oxygen mask on first, and it's from that place that you can then give to others, that you can then give to
Mhm.
your family, right?
Yeah, we become human pretzels. We're
Yep,
gonna bend and mold ourselves to be whatever you want us to be so you'll love us.
yep, yep,
And I wonder if your sister was an empath or empathic.
very much.
She felt the pain of that's why she had a hard time moving forward with it. And
Yep,
I'm an empath as well, and it's really hard when you take on that pain,
yep,
and it's and what happens often, at least for me, I had one parent that would be like, "Oh, for let it go. Stop being so sensitive." And that's not cool because then we think we have a character defect that we can't bring into our adult life until we can break ourselves open for whatever that pain is. That other stuff is going to start oozing out.
yes.
Even if you don't crack open a little bit, it starts oozing. Sure.
Because it can only go so, I mean, there's only so much, right? Like, it, like, stacks and stacks and stacks, and then it starts to come open.
Blow up.
Yeah,
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 it comes out in people's words or with their fists.
yep. And it's that I think this is such an important topic because if we're not naming things for what they are and calling things what they are, we have no chance of healing it.
Right.
And and society is not going to be the ones that model this for us. Like,
Yeah,
we are going to have to do that.
and it comes down to honesty. And so often we're not honest with ourselves. So if I'm not honest with me, how can I be honest with you? Right. And that's what I
Yeah.
found with my son or people with active addiction. They're not honest with themselves. Denials can be a beautiful thing. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But it's
Avoidance, denial, yeah, like, I'll just park that over there and
hmm
move along, but we don't, we're not moving along, right?
yeah. But I also want to point out that with addiction, and there's all kinds of addictions, could be shopping, drugs, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. The behaviors are all the same. And it's not about the drink or the drug, it's about the why. What hurt you so bad? What trauma? What happened in your life? And it could be generational, it could be ancestral. What is internal that you're self-medicating or shopping or gambling or whatever it is? What are you suppressing? Because again,
Filling the void, trying that, and that's what it is, right? We're trying to fill that internal void that we feel, and it does feel good for a minute, right? Like, you do
a
that
hot minute.
thing, hot minute, and then that goes, and it's like, it doesn't last as long each time, right? Which is why people have to use more and more and more and more to try to get back that high.
Yeah.
And after my sister passed away, I was on, I call them uppers, downers, all arounders. Like, I was on something
Yes.
for everything. And, I was in terrible relationships with people. My friendship group was not the healthiest. I mean, it's just like how you do one thing is kind of how you do everything.
Mhm.
But, compared to a lot of other people, I thought, well, I'm doing pretty good in life, like, all things.
Mhm.
But when I really started to look at how I was coping, it wasn't healthy. I was definitely trying to avoid and numb. And when I took all of that away and I learned how to love myself,
Mhm.
I'm like, this is it. This is what we're all searching for. Like, this
Mhm.
is it.
Yeah.
And when you finally get that, you want to go scream it from the mountaintops. And I remember going to everybody in my family and like, okay, family, I figured it out. Like, I have the answers. Let's go. And everyone was like, not interested.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very much a thing that people have to come to on their own. And, we have the best intentions because you just want everybody to feel this and to experience it. But it is something that people have to come to on their own.
Yeah, because you can't unpack it for anybody.
You can be there and ready, like, if you're ready, I'm ready, we're gonna
Yeah,
do this, but someone has to open the door. You can't open the door for them, and
right. I'll
often
hold space for you. I
yeah,
can't do the hard work, and this is hard work.
it is hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah, and make no mistake about it, when we say it, so, it's like sunshine and rainbows on the other side of it, but
yeah, I know.
it's a lot to go through because it's what you're saying is you're intentionally going into the darkness. You're going into all the things that you intentionally stuff down. And it's like, why would I do that? Like I've strategically not looked at this stuff for 50 years of my life. Why again would I go right into the heart of that? And so it's I always say it feels simple because once people go through it, everyone's like, this is like, I thought it'd be something more than this. Like, this is what it is. It's like, yep, this is what it is. But it's not easy, right? Because again, you're having to wade through the emotions and the experiences and all of that. And I always say, pick your heart because it's going to be hard if you don't deal with it and you just keep it pushed down because it's going to manifest in all kinds of ways, or it's going to be hard if you face it. Pick your heart.
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so true. And it's hard. It's hard to, face our shadows, our pain, and sometimes we don't even know what it is, but if you can get to that point, it's great. However, we do have reoccurrences. We do. The old behaviors show up on occasion. It's not perfect 100% of the time.
And that's such a misconception you have once you do this work. I remember thinking, like, okay, everything's gonna be easy breezy from this point forward because 'cause I've done it all. No,
Well,
no, no, that's not how that works. You still get triggered, but you respond differently. Like, now you see you have a choice, right? And I have a choice of how I'm gonna respond versus everything just happens to me.
yeah, it's responding rather than reacting.
Mhm.
However, there's times I still react. I catch myself and then I have to go apologize for my bad
So
behavior.
many times, so many times. And I've even had, like, that conversation where it's like, "You're not acting like you tell other people." Like, that I hear you say these things, and that's not really how you're showing up for me. What's up with that? I'm like, "Oh, yeah, call me out on my own thing. I gotcha."
Yeah. Well, what happens is what I learned, I read this book called The Adult Chair, Michelle Chalfant. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I've not heard of that.
And so when I'm reading this book, it triggered a memory of my 5-year-old birthday party. And this girl she was like the Tasmanian devil, like ripping open my presents. And I went to I had asked her nicely not to. And she continued. And so I went to my mom and I asked her to please ask her to stop. And she's like, "Oh, Donna, stop being so sensitive. Just let it go." And I heard that my whole life. I thought I had a character defect. I read this book and I realized that when my husband, I want to say I was like 68. I was late in life. I learned this lesson. And I said something, and my husband said, "Oh, Donna, just let it go. You're just being too sensitive." Guess who showed up? That
Yeah.
year old. And she threw a temper tantrum and I didn't understand it. But when I read the book, I understood it. So I had to go digest it and go sit in my adult chair and then go to him and say, "Listen, when you say this, it triggers this 5-year-old who was not validated and who was dismissed, who was not heard. Please don't do that to me. I
Mhm.
need you to hear me. Have a conversation." You can say, "Donna, pause. Let's pause, but don't dismiss me because that's a pain that I've been working on healing." And that's what happens to a lot of people. We have to look at when somebody triggers us or whatever, stop and ask, "How old do you feel?"
Mm.
Because that's the little kid who wasn't heard, who wasn't validated, who was abused or whatever. And that's how we start the healing process of working with our inner child.
So powerful, and it is awareness, and I think that's for me, meditation is what allowed me to have awareness because it stopped all the noise and all the ruminating thoughts, and it just gave me some silence. And I know people are like, meditation. I credit it as being one of the most important parts of my healing journey because of that.
I agree. Mine too.
It gives you that space to hear what your inner self is wanting to tell you. And now I'm at the point where every time I'm struggling with something, I go right to meditation
Mhm.
because I know that I'm going to hear what I need to hear from my heart and not from my head. It's like when we drop into our heart, we actually hear that inner voice that's trying to help us and trying to give us some resources and solutions. Mine is always my trigger is respect. And when I feel like I'm not being respected, I go to anger. And I can go from 0 to that Tasmanian devil that you talked about in, like, a second when
Sure.
that happens, and I yell because when I went into my heart with this, I'm like, "Why am I yelling?" It's like, "'Cause you weren't heard. You were never heard, and so you think you have to be loud
Mhm.
to be heard and to let people know, like, you're serious about this. This isn't okay."
Yeah.
And of course, who wants to be yelled at? Like, so,
Right.
that never results in the outcome that you're wanting. And so, like you said, I have to catch myself doing it and then go back and say, okay, that's not how I wanted that to go. But like you said, what I really need from you is this, because this is what's going to trigger me.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
asking for what we need, which we're also not very good at. But this is all an evolution, right? And so I think that's really important that you said that because even if you do the work, don't expect perfection. This is not about being perfect. It's about making incremental progress and iterating and learning as we go and as we grow. And I think that's just how the expectation is that never ends. Like that never ends.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. We're perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And and it's being
Thank
okay.
goodness. Thank goodness, because perfection's a standard I'm not interested in.
Right. Well, how much fun would it be being so perfect that you did everything right and you couldn't possibly learn anything because you did everything right?
Everything's perfect. Yeah.
So we used to tell our kids, green grows and ripe rots. When you think you know everything, you have no place to go but down. As long as you're willing to grow and you're open to learning more things, you're green, right? You just keep moving on.
I love that. I love that. That's so powerful. And I love a good saying that I can visualize it too.
Yeah.
That really helps. So, as we kind of think about the wisdom of this, what's something that you would have gone back and told yourself when you were in that position of just breaking open that you now know now, kind of that wisdom you know now? What would you have shared with yourself or with anybody else who's kind of feeling like they're in that place now?
You've got this. You've got this. Gonna take time,
Mm.
but you got this. It's just, yeah, just having patience with ourselves, allowing ourselves to feel that pain, allowing ourselves to be honest with our wants and needs, allowing ourselves to be heard. Yeah, you got this. You're gonna be okay.
And they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay too.
Mhm.
Sometimes that is the result, sometimes it's not. But we have to, yeah, focusing on yourself first, I think, right? Before we can go out and save the world.
Right, and it's a mind shift. There are days I'm not okay, but I'm gonna tell myself, "You're gonna be okay." And I'm gonna hold on to that lifeline. I'm gonna be okay. Because if we can shift how we think from the negative to the positive, taking it whether it's a breath at a time or a baby step or whatever, we will be okay as long as we're willing.
Yeah, and that's right. That's such a good point because grief doesn't end. And, society doesn't do a great job of helping set the expectation around this. It definitely has been, socialized that there's an end point with it. And I think that's what's gotten us so mixed up with grief because grief is the love that you still continue to hold. and carry with you. And so as long as you hold that love and attachment, you're going to experience grief. It's not going to be every day anymore, but it is going to show up on a Tuesday when you're at the grocery store, and for no apparent reason, it's going to come up and it's going to hit you, and you're not going to be okay. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. And feel
That's
it.
okay.
And yeah, honor it.
Just honor it and know that that's just part of this process. And when we lean into that, I always tell people I've made friends with my grief because,
Mhm.
you know, I would rather invite my grief in and I could lean into it and learn from it and hold it than resist it and fight it, because what we resist will persist us.
Right.
And now I think I'd rather be on the right side of it because it's going to continue to happen. I mean, I've lost my mom, my dad, and my sister. I'm the only one still here from my origin family, but I look around me and I know everything I love eventually we lose.
Mhm.
And that's the other side of love. We love and we lose, and we can't escape either of those. I don't want to live in a world that we don't love, where there's no attachment. So I know the risk, right? I know the risk that if I love and I attach to people or to my animals or to things, there's a potential that I'm going to lose that. And that's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
But I would rather take the risk and love openly and fully than to close myself off to all of that.
Right, because you're allowing joy to be part of your life. You're allowing yourself to be emotionally healthy by
Mhm.
shutting it all off. It just sounds so miserable.
And
Right.
it is.
Yeah, and you
And
have to
you
take a
see that.
chance and everything, and there's loss in everything that we do, everything that we touch. Everyone comes into our lives for a reason, and, you know, it just it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It's the most difficult things you'll go through. And I think for some people, it's like, well, you're telling me to find meaning in this awful thing. It's like there's never meaning in like a death, right? Like the death itself, there's not meaning in that. There wasn't, just the addiction. We're not saying like we love the addiction, right? There's meaning in everything that happened because of the experience, right? Because your son had an active addiction. There's a lot of meaning that came from that for everybody.
Yeah,
Right? For you, for him, for everybody that was associated with that. That's what when we're talking about meaning, it's the experience that you go through to learn about yourself, to adapt to life, to become the version of yourself now that has all changed. That's what we're talking about with meaning. It's not that we want you to find meaning in something really horrific that happened to you.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. This is such an important conversation, and the work you're doing is so important for families. And I love that you've taken that scar and you've turned it into some beautiful wisdom that I know is helping so many people.
Thank you, thank you.
So I'll share your information when I post this on YouTube so people can know how to access you and to find you. But thank you for showing us your heart and just for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thanks.